You're listening to the All Veterans Hour on WLIJ, engaging discussion by veterans for veterans, with your hosts Gary Leverette and Jimmy Miller. Join them as they discuss various veterans programs, issues, play powerful and healing veteran-related music, and keep the American citizen informed on things they ought to know. Right here on The Leader, WLIJ, every second and fourth Monday on 98.7 FM and AM 1580, and reaching around the world on WLIJradio.com. The All Veterans Hour on WLIJ is brought to you by United Communications, the Holy Crab Shack, the American Legion Post 23, and by the DAV Chapter 43.
Good morning, Bedford County, Shelbyville, surrounding areas. I'm Gary Leverette. Welcome to the All Veterans Hour. We got a good show for you today, I think. Jimmy Miller, my co-host, is here. Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning, Gary. Good morning to all our listeners.
And we got a special guest, Jeff Lackey. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, good morning. Glad to be here with you guys today.
Jeff will be giving us a lot of information about the 12th Armored Division and his father and experiences in the war. And I think it'll be a very interesting show today. So welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
And tell us a little bit about the 12th Armored.
Sure. Well, first of all, my father, his name was Mac William Lackey. He was born in Detroit in 1920, and he passed away in 2017 at the age of 96. He enlisted in the Army in 1942 in Detroit and was immediately sent to Camp Campbell, Kentucky, now Fort Campbell. And that's where the 12th Armored Division was activated in 1942. So a little bit about the 12th Armored. I believe during World War II there were something like 16 armored divisions, and they all had the very similar structure where you had 3 tank battalions, you had 3 armored field artillery battalions, and 3 armored infantry battalions. And then underneath all that you had support groups, ordnance battalion, signal battalion, medical, and engineer battalion. So each of those, 1 tank, 1 armored field artillery, and 1 armored infantry battalion made up Combat Command A, B, and R for reserve. So that's kind of how they were structured. When they were stationed at Camp Campbell, they participated in the Tennessee maneuvers. So I don't know if you guys know what the Tennessee maneuvers are, but for those listeners who might not know, let me give you a little bit of background about the maneuvers. If you go back to even the Revolutionary War, or even before that, to European armies, all armies had undergone some training at some point. But usually it was small-scale training, kind of limited to an infantry unit or a cavalry unit. Well, with the onset of World War II, the U.S. realized that they needed to train large-scale numbers of men and troops and learn how to move that number of men and troops together. So really, it was just large-scale training. So in the Tennessee maneuvers, there were maneuvers in 1942, 43, and 44. Now, across the U.S., I believe there were 11 states that had maneuvers. For example, training was held in California and Nevada deserts because that terrain resembled the terrain of, say, North Africa. Tennessee was chosen because its terrain resembled the terrain of Belgium, France, and Germany. So originally the Tennessee maneuvers consisted of 9 counties. And so the first maneuvers were held then. But after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the government just realized they needed to expand the size and the scope of training, so the area was expanded to 21 counties. So basically from the Alabama line all the way to the Kentucky state line. It really encompassed all of Middle Tennessee.
Well, I do have pictures at our DAV building of Patton actually doing maneuvers here in Bedford County.
Yes, yeah, with the 2nd Armored, yeah. And they were participated in the 1st Tennessee maneuvers in 42.
Yeah, I've got pictures of him crossing the Duck River.
Yeah, okay.
Pictures of him up on the square.
So these maneuvers, they basically separated into red and blue armies. And so the Red Army had a mission to complete, and so did the Blue Army. And usually it was, for example, I had in the this is Tennessee Maneuver number 3, I believe. There was a similar problem that said the Blue Army's mission was to advance and seize the general line around Las Casas and Milton and be prepared for further movement south to Manchester. Likewise, the Red Army's mission was to advance and seize a whole general line around Watertown and Baird's Mill. So what's interesting was, they didn't use live rounds. They had umpires who determined what equipment and what troops were killed. And they had different colored flags for injured, killed, captured, things like that. What's really interesting about the Tennessee maneuvers is local citizens were told not to interact with the troops because they're training for war, But really what happened was the opposite happened. There's a lot of photos, like you have a photo of, well, not necessarily local townspeople, but there's a lot of stories and photos of townspeople giving soldiers hams and chickens and letting them use their cars and let them sleep in their house to get them off the cold ground. I mean, that infuriated the commanding officers, but, what were they going to do?
Right.
The local townspeople treated them like, these are our boys. So, but yeah, they participated in the Tennessee maneuvers in 1943. And after that, they transferred to Camp Barkley, Texas, which is just south of Abilene. And that's where they underwent their combat readiness training. So then, once they completed that in 44, they went to New York, and then they departed for the European Theater of Operations. So they were there by September, and they landed in Liverpool, England in October. And then after a few weeks of organization, they crossed the English Channel, and they were in France in November 44. And they were assigned to the 7th Army, commanded by Lieutenant General Alexander Patch. So in the next segment, I'd like to talk about some of their experiences in combat. So they were in combat basically from December of 44 until May of 45.
That's pretty interesting, huh, Jimmy?
It is, and I think a lot of the younger generation don't realize that wasn't just any kind of war. World War II was,
It was massive, yeah, it was.
Yeah, this armored division, I think, had about 16,000 men. I think almost all armored divisions had a similar number, of men.
Yeah, that's still our toughest generation.
Oh, yeah.
I know it wasn't mine. I served in the military afterwards, but they were...
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit later about what my father experienced. He's like a lot of that generation where he didn't really talk much about it. So most of my stories are just my own personal research, but, I do have a few things he shared with me, but generally, like that generation, he just didn't talk about it that much,
Yeah.
When you'd ask him about it, he'd say, well, I was just doing my job,
Well, I want to break right here for a minute and talk about the Memorial Day service that we had. It went really good, and we appreciate everybody that showed up for that service. Tommy Bolin did a great job as our speaker, Colonel Bolin. And Jimmy, how did it go out at Uncle Nearest? I didn't get to go.
It went really well. It's being the third year. There's been improvements every year. This year, due to the weather, we had to move it inside to the Humble Baron. But good time. I actually, which I hopefully start this as a tradition, me and a bunch of my brothers and sisters from years past that have served together, we all met there and spent the day like a mini reunion. So yeah, I was there about 6 hours just reminiscing and catching up, and they had good food. Princess Hot Chicken was there. I might have had some chocolate covered Oreos. Yeah, I think I did pretty good. Might have had a drink or two, but yeah, good time. Just, they did a phenomenal job.
I hate that I missed it.
I guess we better pay some bills, Brandon.
United Communications builds connections that you can rely on. Whether it's fast internet for your home or business, our fiber network is designed for your community. No long hold times, no out-of-town providers. Just real service from real people. Call 931-740-1800 or visit united.net. Thousands of Tennesseans already trust United. United Communications. Fast, local, internet.
We're the Holy Crab Shack, where the love runs deep. Precious catch and a faith to keep. Right here in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Good food and God come see. We're the Holy Crab Shack, where the love runs deep. Precious catch and a faith to keep. Right here in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Good food and God come see. So grab a seat.
All right, we're back. We're here this morning with Jimmy Miller and Jeff Lackey, and I want to thank the Holy Crab Shack and United Telephone for sponsoring us. Go by and see those folks. If you go to the Crab Shack, it's not just a Crab Shack. They got elk burgers, ham burgers, bison burgers, all kinds of good stuff. And I didn't eat anything down there that wasn't good. It's changed me from beef to elk. I tell you, that was good. But we're here this morning with Jeff Lackey, and Jeff is telling us about the 12th Armored Division, and Jeff, we'll let you pick it up from there.
Sure. So we talked about the 12th Armored being in France by November of 44. By then, Paris had already been liberated, so the front lines were really halfway, say, between Paris and the German border. And that's where the 12th Armored moved to. So they moved toward the front lines. Specifically, the command post was set up in Luneville, France. So again, halfway between Paris and the German border. And so by December 7th, that's when they officially fired their first rounds in combat. So my father was assigned to the 23rd Tank Battalion, one of those 3 tank battalions we talked about. The battalion commander was Lieutenant Colonel Montgomery Meigs. So remember that name. We'll get back to that. On December the 11th, so it was just 4 days into combat, the 23rd Tank Battalion was moving to clear another area around the Maginot Line. Lieutenant Colonel Meigs called a halt until the guns of the enemy could be located. Then he ordered his tank driver to move forward until he could just see over the ridge without exposing his entire tank. And so he told the driver, after observation, he told the driver to back up. But just at that moment, an anti-tank round went through the open hatch door and struck him and killed him instantly. Well, my dad saw that happen. And this is one of the few things that he told me. I remember he
killed the commander?
Yeah, instantly. It just, yeah,
okay.
Instantly. I remember my dad telling me that, we looked up to him. He's our battalion commander. And we figured, if anybody can get us through this war alive, it's this guy. And then he told me that morale was really affected after that, because they thought, if he couldn't even make it through 1 week of combat, what chance do we have? And he said it just really, shook morale in the unit. But listen, on a side note, the Meigs family, I'll tell you a little bit about the Meigs family. They have a long history of military service. So Lieutenant Colonel Montgomery Meigs, World War II, his granduncle was Montgomery Meigs, who was quartermaster of the U.S. Army during the Civil War and one of the chief or principal architects of Arlington Cemetery. And then his son, who was born 1 month after he was killed, he was also named Montgomery Meigs. He fought in Vietnam and then later rose to the rank of general and became the commanding general of the U.S. Armed Forces during Desert Storm. So, and there's nephews and, cousins that all served in military service. Now let's talk about January. So January is when the 23rd or the 12th Armored Division experienced their bloodiest chapter in combat. So, the Nazis had launched Operation Nordwind, which was really their last major offensive of World War II. The goal of that offensive was to break through the lines of the U.S. 7th Army in the Vosges Mountains and the Alsace region and destroy them, and then seize the city of Strasbourg, which is south. So when we say like Alsace region, there's regions in France, just like here, like we say Tennessee Valley is a region. So the 12th Armored fought in two regions: Lorraine region, which is northern France on the eastern side, and the Alsace region, which is on the southeast side. But anyway, on the way to Strasbourg was a little town standing in the way called Herrlisheim. And so Herrlisheim is near the Rhine River, and there was probably almost a week's worth of combat there. And I think about 80% of that little town, today it's only about 5,000 people, probably half of that back in the 40s, but about 80% of that town was destroyed during that week-long combat. The battle itself, as far as we know, cost the 12th Armored about 1,700 casualties, including 260 killed. I don't know how many books that were written about that battle, but this is the one that I have that I think is the most detailed. It's called Crossing Crossing the Zorn by Edward Monroe Jones. Zorn River is there were several bridges crossing the Zorn River as they went into Herrlisheim, and this is one of the areas where they were pinned and underwent just a tremendous assault trying to cross the Zorn River. So yeah, they lost quite a bit of men in Herrlisheim. That is considered their bloodiest chapter in their 5 months of combat. Now, in February, the 12th Armored was assigned to the 1st French Army in Lower Alsace. Now, the division received about 1,700 reinforcements to replace those losses from Herrlisheim, and the 12th worked with the 1st French Army to eliminate the last foothold of Germans in France. Now, that operation was known as the Colmar Pocket. There was a little town called Colmar on the French side of the Rhine River, but there was a pocket of Germans still there, and that was one of the last territories in France where the Germans still occupied. So, but the 12th was one of 4 armored divisions to block the German withdrawal from the Vosges Mountains. So then we get into March. That's when the 12th Armored was transferred from the 7th Army to General Patton's 3rd Army. And the idea was to give General Patton another armored division in his drive into the heart of Germany. So by March the 19th, the 23rd Tank Battalion had just cleared the town of Windwiller, Germany, and were heading south into the next town of Lohnsfeld, Germany. So as they were going into Lohnsfeld, Germany, they rounded a bend in the road leading into town. There were woods on this side of the road where the Germans were positioned, and then over on the right side of the road were just an open field with tall grass. But anyway, as they came around the bend in the road, the lead tank was hit by an 88 millimeter Panzerschreck. So all the tanks stopped, and they started to try to back up, but the Germans just started picking off tanks one by one. So my father's tank was hit, and the tank crew has 5, and there were 1 or 2 killed, I'm not sure, and then 1 or 2 got out and took off running. So one of the few things my dad told me was he was yelling at them to stay behind because he knew you just couldn't be exposed. They had to take cover behind the tank. Well, they took off running. But then he realized, well, I'm alone, number one, and number two, I can't stay here all day. So he took off running across the road into an open field, and that's when he got hit by small arms fire. And so that's how he earned his Purple Heart. One thing he did tell me was when he was laying in the tall grass, he heard German voices getting closer and closer to him. So he knew that they were looking for him. And he figured, well, if they find me, they're likely to kill me. So he took out his .45, and he said, I just prepared to take out as many as I could. And the voices got closer and closer. And then he heard the voices get farther and farther away and realized they walked right by him and they never found him because he was hidden in that tall grass. So that's one of the few things my father told me.
Well, let's take a little break in the action and listen to a little bit of veteran music. So this is He Took My Place, which is Will Nance on the vocals. So go for it, Brandon.
called it Last Supper. Gave us lobster and steak. And for the very first time, Gunny called me by name. Geared up for the rescue, ready for the fight. He said, Gary, find your replacement. You're on crew rest tonight. So I picked a young corporal. He was just 21. 30 days and a wake up, and his hitch was done. The look in his eyes was telling me no, please don't. But I heard him say, for you, Sergeant Lima, I'll go. He took my place up on that bird. He died that night. Years have gone by. It haunts and it hurts. I cry out to you, Lord. Tears stream down my face. It should have been me. It should have been me. But he took my place. I still have that dream where I'm trying to swim through cold black water, trying to save all my men. Oh, and I blame Gunny. Yeah, and I blame myself. I should have died with them in that watery hell. Then Jesus, my Savior, whispers to me, son, you are forgiven, my child, be at peace. His life-giving waters wash over me. All my sins are erased, and my soul's finally free. 'Cause he took my place up on that cross. He died that day. We all were saved, not all was lost. Cry out to Lord. Tears stream down my face. He died for me up on Calvary's tree. He took my place. He died for me up on Calvary's tree. He took my place.
All right, we're back. That was Will Nance singing He Took My Place, a song about Vietnam. Here with Jimmy Miller this morning and Jeff Lackey. Jeff's doing a good job telling us about the 12th Armored Division, but we're going to go to Jimmy Miller right now. Tell us about our meeting times and places.
Okay, our meeting times. American Legion Post 23 and the DAV Chapter 23. We all,
Chapter 43.
Chapter 43. And that's what I have written down, but yeah, see, we make mistakes on the radio. But they're both located at 1357 Tennessee 130 East. Both of them have meals provided by Rowdy Ranch. All we ask is everyone bring a covered dish, and spouses are welcome to both of these meetings. The American Legion meets on the first Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock, and the DAV Chapter 43 meets on the second Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock. we ask everybody, if you're a member or if you're eligible to join, come to one of these meetings, see what it's all about. We could really use your membership and your help.
Yeah, we need some more members. We need a lot of more members.
Well, and I was just having this conversation with Tim the other day. If something doesn't happen, I see in the next 5 to 10 years these organizations going by the wayside. And they're good organizations that help a lot of our veterans.
We have a good time. I mean, the meetings are good. We eat real good.
We do.
We eat real good. Rowdy Ranch does a great job of supplying our meat, and everybody brings a dish. But we do a lot of good things, and we need help doing what we do. We got a Raise Across America coming up in December. We got Feed Bedford County at Christmas time. That cost us about $10,000 just to do that. We need volunteers. We need help with the things that we do.
Yeah, and it's not even just the big things we do. I mean, veterans in the community know that if they can't get answers or they need help, to reach out to one of our organizations. I've went and helped a veteran spouse move furniture because she didn't have anybody that could move it for her husband to come home from the VA hospital. I've organized honor guards for funerals. I mean, there's a lot we do in the community that the community doesn't even realize, but it's important to veterans.
And people don't realize that we've helped with veterans getting ramps. We've helped with veterans putting up ramps and
their rent, their utilities. If a veteran needs help, our Veterans Council does our best to help. If you know a veteran that needs help, he can get in touch with any member of our organizations, and they will bring it up to our council. We'll set up a meeting and see if we can help that person. So we need help doing what we do, and we do a lot of good things. We really do.
Jimmy, you mentioned organizations that may be going by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
So the 12th Armored Division, we have an association. It was founded by the veterans at the conclusion of World War II. And so there are two major components of this association. They have an annual reunion, just like a lot of military units have an annual reunion. And they also publish a monthly newsletter called the Hellcat News, because they were nicknamed the Hellcats during World War II. Well, the association is still active today. I'm on the executive council, which is essentially a board of directors, and we still have a reunion every year, and we still publish a monthly newsletter. Matter of fact, I write the column for the 23rd Tank Battalion. I've been doing that every month since like 2008, I think. But it's with the declining membership, our reunions are getting smaller and smaller, and our distribution of the Hellcat News is getting smaller and smaller. So we are not unlike any other organization where we face the same kind of issues, But it's to be expected with the age of World War II vets now. So
yeah. I only know of one World War II vet in Bedford County that's still alive. There may be more, but I know of one.
I know of one in Tullahoma.
Our reunion last year was in St. Louis, and we had two vets attend. One was 99, one was 102. This year, our reunion, ironically, is in Nashville, and we're just not sure if we're going to have any vets or not. And the whole purpose of the reunions is for veterans to get together.
Right.
When I started attending reunions back in the mid-2000s, we had 300 people. Last year in St. Louis, we only had 80, and we're expecting only 70 this year in, Nashville. So,
and people nowadays don't realize how much experience and knowledge we gain from World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I've been to Germany. I've seen all the buildings, and yeah, it's one thing to describe it, but to actually be there and see, that was hard terrain. That was nothing easy about that war.
Yeah, if we have time later in the show, I'm going to talk about when I went to France and Germany with a group from the 12th Armored Association last month for VE Day. So we'll talk about that a little bit if we have time.
Well, Brandon, we better pay the bills again, and after you do that, go right into that next song, which is My Carol, My Angel, and again, that's Will Nance on the vocals.
We're the Holy Crab Shack, where the love runs deep. see. Precious catch and a faith to keep. Right here in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Good food and God come and see. The Holy Crab Shack where the love runs deep. Precious catch and a faith to keep. Right here in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Good food and God come and see. So grab a seat.
At United Communications, we're more than just fast internet. We're your local connection to reliability and service you can count on. Right here in Bedford County. With fiber fast speeds and a team in your community, we keep you connected when it matters most. No long hold times, no out-of-town providers, just real service from people who care. Call 931-740-1800 or visit united.net. Thousands of Tennesseans already trust United. United Communications. Fast, local internet.
My Carol, my angel, my wife. She's my saving grace. She saved my life. After 46 years, I thank God she's still here. My Carol, my angel, my wife. Been to boot camp in the great mistakes, and I've made some great mistakes. Been to Monkey Mountain with the spiders and snakes. Got out, got home, got called all kinds of names. But when she called me honey, that's when my life changed. My Carol, my angel, my wife. She's my saving grace. She saved my life. After 46 years, I thank God she's still here. My Carol, my angel, my wife. I still fight that war, struggle with that Agent Orange, duck and run for cover with fireworks and thunderstorms. But hey, it's okay, I'm gonna be alright, long as I've got that woman standing by my side. My Carol, my angel, my wife. She's my saving grace. She saved my life. After 46 years, I thank God she's still here. My Carol, my angel, my wife. After 46 years, I thank God she's still here. My Carol, my angel, my Carol, my angel, my Carol, you're my super wife.
All right, we're back with Jimmy Miller and Jeff Lackey, and Jeff's telling us about 12th Armored Division, but let me remind you, if you need paperwork filed for the VA, you need to file for benefits, need to go to the courthouse, to the basement of the courthouse. There is a ramp going into the basement to go see Ben Ely, our veteran service officer. And Ben, there are no steps, so you can roll right into Ben's office. Whatever you need to do, he will fill out the paperwork to get you in the VA system, or to file for benefits if you're already in the system. And just a reminder, if you're sick and are injured and you need VA assistance, you don't have to wait for your primary care. You can go to the urgent care either in Murfreesboro or Nashville, and they will treat you and send a message, an email to your primary care telling them what action they took to solve your problem. So a lot of people say, well, they kind of knocked the VA. I'm sick and I can't get an appointment with my doctor. Well, you don't have to. You can be treated that day immediately. So, anyway, so that's an excuse that don't work anymore.
It does not.
If you need a ride to your doctor's appointment, well, let me give you Ben's phone number. Ben's phone number is 931-685-4838. And it's best to make an appointment because it is a very busy office. So make an appointment to see Ben. If you need a ride to your doctor's appointment, Bill Tucker, 931-607-7178. Bill does a great job of getting our veterans to their doctor's appointments. He has 2 drivers that work with him, so that's sometimes we have 3 vehicles on the road on the same day. And they will pick you up at your home and take you back to your home. So take advantage of that service. Bill Tucker and his drivers do an awesome job. Again, we're here with Jeff Lackey this morning, and Jeff is talking about the 12th Armored Division and about his father that was in the 12th Armored Division during World War II, and about maneuvers here in Tennessee. We know that Tullahoma was a place of training. Bedford County, Shelbyville was a place of training. General Patton had his troops here in Bedford County and probably Tullahoma and all over Middle Tennessee, I guess. But anyway, Jeff, tell us a little bit more about what you got going on.
Okay. So by April, the 12th Armored were in Germany, and they were continuing to push deeper and deeper into Germany. And that month in April is the month they liberated a concentration camp. Now, I don't know if they had a report to go there or they just stumbled upon it. But anyway, they liberated this camp, and the camp itself is considered a sub-camp or a satellite camp of Dachau. And it was near Landsberg, Germany, and there's an entire complex of camps around Landsberg, Germany. It was called the Landsberg-Kaufering camps. There were 11 camps total in that area, and the 12th Armored had liberated camp number 4. And so essentially what happened was, as the Germans were retreating, they knew the war was soon be over, and so of course they had to get rid of any evidence that linked them to concentration camps. This particular camp was where it was considered a sick camp, where people were sent when they were no longer able to work at the main camps. And so they were essentially useless to the Germans. So as they retreated, there were, I think, 360 remaining who died of either starvation or disease or execution. And so to hide the evidence, they were burned alive, or the bodies were burned. And so there is a mass grave there today and a memorial there. I've seen it. And it's really sad when you read about it, when you consider what people are capable of. I mean, it's just horrific, really, But that's April. Now we're in May. This is a very unusual month for the 12th Armored. So they liberated it's called the Battle for Castle Itter. So this particular castle was seized by the Germans from a private citizen and transferred into a prison. And it was placed under the administration of the Dachau concentration camp. Well, it held high-profile French prisoners that were valuable to the Third Reich. So, for example, there was a star tennis player, 2 former prime ministers, 2 former commanders-in-chief, and the older sister of Charles de Gaulle. They're all held there. What's unusual about it is there was a German Army Major General who surrendered to the 23rd Tank Battalion and said, I'm surrendering, but I know where some POWs are held, and I need your help to perform a rescue mission. Well, the 23rd Tank Battalion didn't know that if he was telling the truth or it was a trap, but they decided to go check it out. So they did, and saw all the prisoners held there. So they were they were putting together a rescue mission to get these prisoners out, because they had to go pretty deep into Germany to get them. And Germans got wind that the Americans were performing a rescue mission, and so they sent in the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division, who attacked the castle, trying to, get rid of the Americans and kill all the prisoners. Well, the Americans just fought back, of course. They had tanks set up outside the perimeter of the castle, and they're holding on, but now they start running out of ammo. So there's a really interesting book about it. This is the one I was talking about, The Last Battle. But they were running out of ammo, and they were just trying to figure out what to do, and finally they got relief when the 142nd Infantry Regiment of the 36th Division arrived, and that they pushed out the Germans and freed the castle and the prisoners. But it's considered a very strange battle because it's only one of two known times during the war in which Germans and Americans fought side by side. I've seen a TV show about it on National Geographic or History Channel, and they consider it one of the strangest battles of World War II. And that ended the 12th Armored's time in combat. So kind of as a summary, the 12th Armored Division suffered a total of a little over 3,500 casualties, with 616 killed in action. Now, the 12th Armored is credited with capturing over 72,000 enemy POWs, which is pretty impressive when you consider the division only had 16,000 men. Of course, I understand that a lot of Germans troops had surrendered as they were retreating. So, but still, a couple of other interesting facts real quick. The 12th Armored is one of only two armored division that integrated African American troops. So, we talked about each tank battalion or armored infantry battalion or armored field artillery had companies A, B, and C. The armored field artillery battalions had a D company made up exclusively of African American troops. Ironically, the 12th Armored Division includes one Medal of Honor recipient, who is Sergeant Edward Carter. He was African American. So very interesting.
Yeah, that's what, I was trying to remember when I first joined the American Legion. You said his name was TJ?
Yeah, TJ Fraser.
So he was African American.
Mm-hmm.
And World War II was the first time he'd ever left America. And he was telling me a story that when he got over there, one of his sergeants told him to jump in this truck and take it down to the bottom of the hill. He's like, Jimmy, he goes, I was from the South. He goes, I'd never been in no truck. I was like, what'd you do? He goes, I was so scared. I jumped in that truck, had no idea what I was doing, run it down the hill and into the barricade.
I don't think that was TJ, though. Not in World War II.
I know his name, and I can't think of it.
TJ, I think, was Vietnam.
It was the one that used to ride with TJ. But, yeah, listen to stories from where I went to Germany and seen all this stuff and what I seen, and then their stories. I mean, it is just amazing.
We miss TJ. TJ was a good guy.
But I've been to Dachau, and that's still to this day, there's an eerie feeling.
Mm-hmm. Your time. You ready?
Like me, he tried to choke me once with the one hand that he had left. That young Marine, he was angry at hippies, his wheelchair, and his hospital bed. Earl Ray had a fiancée, had a perfume letter, and her picture clothes. First time she came to see him, she passed out cold. Her mama took her home, and Earl Ray's hope was gone. How do you
fiance. That little girl was stronger than we knew. She kept on calling him and writing him, even though he asked her, he begged her not to. Just when he thought that she was long gone, she called from the gate, said, I can't go on without you, love. I've come to take you home. Let's go home. How do you mend a purple heart? How do you put back all the broken parts? Try to learn to live and love and laugh again. How do you mend a purple heart? How do you mend a purple heart? Earl Ray didn't like me, but the one time in my life I felt most proud was when he said, you ain't one of us, but we don't mind having you around.
United Communications builds connections you can rely on. Whether it's fast internet for your home or business, our fiber network is designed for your community. No long hold times, no out-of-town providers, just real service from real people. Call 931-740-1800 or visit united.net. Thousands of Tennesseans already trust United. United Communications. Fast, local internet.
We're the Holy Crab Shack, where the love runs deep. Precious catch and a faith to keep. Right here in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Good food and God come and see. We're the Holy Crab Shack, where the love runs deep. Precious catch and a faith to keep. Right here in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Good food and God come and see. So grab a seat.
You're listening to the All Veterans Hour on WLIJ, engaging discussion by veterans for veterans, with your hosts Gary Leverette and Jimmy Miller. Join them as they discuss various veterans programs, issues, play powerful and healing veteran-related music, and keep the American citizen informed on things they ought to know. Right here on the leader, WLIJ, every second and fourth Monday on 98.7 FM and AM 1580, and reaching around the world on WLIJradio.com. The All Veterans Hour on WLIJ is brought to you by United Communications, the Holy Crab Shack, the American Legion Post 23, and by the DAV Chapter 43.
All right, we're back for our final segment this morning here with Jimmy Miller and Jeff Lackey. Jeff's giving us a history lesson, I guess you'd say, of the 12th Armored Division. Jeff, tell us about the trip you made.
Yeah, so that was last month for VE Day. Went to France and Germany. So let me give you a little background about it. So I mentioned earlier about January 45 was the 12th Armor's bloodiest chapter in combat in that little town in France called Herrlisheim. Well, Herrlisheim, just like a lot of towns in France, you know, they have some celebration every year for VE Day. This year, they were dedicating a new monument to the 12th Armored in their little town and asked some members of the association to attend. So I went with 6 other people. There was a group of 7 of us, and we were in Frankfurt and eventually made our way down to Herrlisheim, about 2 hours away. And now we expected to just be a small part of this ceremony. You know, we really didn't know what to expect, just kind of stand in the background and watch them unveil a monument, right? But instead, when we got there, we got a call and had lunch with the mayor, the deputy mayor, people from the Historical Society. There were U.S. troops there from Stuttgart who were participating in the next day's ceremonies. That night was a American jazz band concert, and we were introduced and in French. We just heard our first names. That's how we figured it out. But they said, welcome to our American friends. The next day at this ceremony, the dedication, we were introduced again. And, I mean, we were just overwhelmed by the recognition that we were receiving because we did not expect it. And after the unveiling of the monument, and of course there were speeches by dignitaries and whatnot, they had a small parade through town of World War II, equipment, tanks and half-tracks, troop carriers, things like that. Then they had Jeep rides for the local citizens. Well, they let us go first, and they took us out in the woods and showed us where a 75 millimeter shell from an M4 Sherman was wedged in a tree. I mean, it was really bizarre. A farmer found it plowing a field next door, and it's still there. The whole thing was just kind of surreal. And so while we were there, I did go to Lohnsfeld, Germany, to find that bend in the road where my dad was wounded, and I think I found it. I can't say for 100% sure that's exactly where it was, because back then the road wasn't paved, and they put an Autobahn nearby. Maybe they rerouted the road, but I think I found the spot, which is also another surreal experience, knowing that I'm likely standing in the spot where my father was wounded 80 years ago. So one thing that really stuck out for me on this trip was 80 years later, how the French are still indebted to what our fathers did. I mean, because, as time goes by, World War II becomes a distant memory. It's no longer recent, memory. But also what stood out to me was we really don't know what it's like to be indebted to another country for our freedom, like France is, or other European countries, because we've always had it. We just don't know what that's like.
Right.
So.
Well, Jeff, I thank you for being here this morning.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here this morning again.
All these names he was popping out, I was thinking about my days in Germany, and it's like, I'm like, I hadn't heard that name in forever. It's like,
we will be back in 2 weeks, Lord willing, and as the song says, the creek don't rise. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, and we'll have another guest, and we'll have another show. But again, Jeff, thank you. It's been very interesting, and we appreciate you coming.
No, thank you for having me.
And Brandon, play that last song, and we'll get out of here.
see, 5 minutes you didn't even know it.
On the street when we were kids, doo-wop, doo-wop, doo-wop. Yeah, that's all we did. Whoa. We made the music, the man made the lute. Doo-wop. Then my uncle sang, he issued me boots, and I woke up one morning in Cameron Bay. Thousands of miles from the music we played, all I could hear was the war in the air, and I thought, somebody get me